Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joe Menza here, and I thought I would do a little demo this time around that kind of highlights lifting paint, wet and wet lifting, both sky and water. I just sprayed my palette down with a little water, the dried paint, and now I'm just applying a coat of water, mainly to the top to start with. A little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of raw sienna here, just to sort of tint the sky a little bit. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is take some ultramarine blue and some Payne's gray, and I'm just going to create a nice solid sky. And once again, just darkening it. Okay, so now that we got a nice dark sky here, have it lighten as it comes down the page. Then we'll take the brush and we'll wet it down and remove the paint. And you can do this as many times as you want. You can keep washing the brush. You can use a paper towel if you want to too, but wiping the brush, it has a different sort of an effect. You can follow it up with the paper towel just to get any dripping coming down. Here's the paper towel by itself, just to show you a difference with that. It's two different effects, as you can see. A little more subtle with the brush, and a little sharper on top. And you can try to make as shapely as you want to. Depending on how much paint you use too, water might be running down a tad bit. Trying to adjust my light so you can see there was a bit of a shine there. You have to experiment a little bit with the pressure, otherwise it can look weird when you try to dab out the paint. So notice the softness, the more mistiness of the lower cloud area toward the horizon, and then the sharpness and brightness on top. So now I'm taking some heavier ultramarine blue and Payne's gray. In the area that I haven't pre-wet, I'm sort of dry brushing strokes across in order to leave some sparkles in the water. Your paper has to be dry, really, in order to do the sparkly effect. If you wet that part down, you're going to have a harder time. And if you dry it, then you'll be okay. And the more grain your paper has to it, the better your results are going to be for this. I'm using 90-pound Fabriano Studio 11 by 14. I'm making the edges darker with more Payne's gray so that you focus more down the center of the paper. Right now I'm just stretching my paper back out a little bit. When you use 90-pound, it tends to get a little wavy. So now I am doing the same effect with the sky. I am using a clean, damp brush, and I'm removing the paint in a sort of a pattern that appears to look like rolling waves. Now you can do as many of these lines as you want to. You can do it straight across like I'm doing here. You can have breaks in it so it doesn't look so straight. A lot of times when waves roll in, they have little areas that there's not anything white there. And you just experiment with it until you get something that looks realistic. When you stand back and you look at it, if it looks like waves rolling in, you've got the right effect. And then you can take a little ultramarine blue and Payne's gray and darken underneath the wave just to enhance the top rolling part. Just sort of blending that in now with the medium brush. The medium hake, or the hake, as it's correctly called. Now you can take and enhance little crests of the wave with a little piece of paper towel like I'm doing here, just like I did in the sky area. If you wait till it dries, you'll really have to lift. You'll have to use more water and a little more rubbing to get the paint off. So this would be the wet to wet. Just sort of blending that in a little bit till it gets where I want it. Don't want too many hard edges there. You can use a spray bottle too, get some natural effects going. With the right spray bottle and little blobs of water, you can create some splashes and things. You can also flick some white on the end of a toothbrush and create some splashes. A lot of things you can do. I'd say at this point I'm probably being a little fussy. Here's the spray bottle. So we get some of that running into the next part. And it gives sort of that natural look you can see as it runs down. It really looks like it's flowing over now. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. Do a quick dry now. I want to preserve it. I don't want it really to run too much more. Just kind of dabbing at it, multitasking here with the hairdryer going. Really getting it good and dry. Okay, now that that's fairly dry, you can use a hair dryer or you can walk away. Sometimes I'll sit there with the tissue as things start to run. If I'm using the hair dryer, I'll dab at it as it's going. But sometimes you can just let it sit and go grab a cup of coffee and come back. Wait till the next day, even if you're going to do a real dry. If you don't know where to go next in the painting, you can do a real good dry, and come back the next day with a fresh perspective. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little land over here. This painting needs something a little bit more than just that. So we're using a little yellow ochre and a little burnt umber Van Dyke brown. Comes alive a little bit with a little bit of land there. And we're just going to toss in a tree, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, a little bit of Payne's gray. Nice and solid, straight up. And we'll take our plastic card and just scrape in a little bark, a little highlight. Just maybe leave a little space on the bottom. Looks like a tree is hollow a little bit. Then we're going to take our number 3 rigger, and I'm just going to put in some branches here. I'm not too worried how they look because I'm going to put some leaves on. You don't have to put leaves on. Up to you. You could have a bare tree, dead wood. Those branches actually look nice against the clouds. So you really could leave it like that. Okay, now that it's drying a little bit, I'm going to enhance the underside of the wave a little bit. Go with a little more ultramarine blue and a little more Payne's gray. Just going to darken the underside of that wave a little bit. This will dry back some too. Just trying to define the little land area there a little more. Was going to darken it a little against the tree root, but I don't think it looked right. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of another green that I have, Azo green, or Azo green, and I put a little bit of that on my board. And I'm just going to dab a somewhat dry hake. And if you've watched my other videos, the drier your hake is, the smaller your leaves are going to be. If you want larger leaves, make a wetter hake. And I just came back with a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of Payne's gray, just to darken, to get some different tones in the leaves. And we'll just add a little of that to the ground. Just added a little yellow highlight there with the cad yellow hue, just where the sunlight's hitting the tree leaves. Just dabbing a little bit of that, kind of blended the wave in a little bit. A little bit of a wet brush, just doing some more blending. Just don't want that to look too obvious. Okay, looking at this now, wondering, the background is kind of dead. I mean, there really needs to be something out there. Even if it's something subtle like a little hill. I'll put a couple of birds in and see here. There needs to be something. And I think what I'm going to do is put just a little hill, little mountain, maybe hill coming off from the right side. Just to have something there. Something subtle. Might be too subtle. Go a little bit darker. There's sort of something way out there. I think it's a little better. It just doesn't look so plain now toward the horizon. I'm just taking a little white here on the end of a toothbrush and just flicking just a little splash. A lot of this will go away, but just a little spray, little ocean spray. And we're getting close to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thank everybody for watching, everybody who's subscribed. Just a little more flicking. Don't overdo it. This is white gouache. So that's it. Again, I hope you enjoyed this. Let's take a closer look and put a mat on it. Just a bit more blending. Well, it's still wet. Sign your work. And here's the finished painting. You can see our little waves, and here it is with the mount on there. You can see our little ocean spray, our little hollowed out tree. And that's it. Thanks again, everybody. Make yourself a great day.